had an opportunity to do a record deal with Motown. We passed on it. My father felt that we would have a little more creative control.
Why we stopped singing. And it was tough then.
Yes.
Back in those days, the 60s,
yes.
the circuit was tough. It was just a harder life.
The Five Stairsteps were a famous family music group in the 1960s and 1970s. They were known for their hit song, OOH Child. But behind the fame, their lives were filled with struggles and heartbreak.
Everybody wants to think that there might have been something wrong why we stopped singing. That there had to be some tension or some friction, right, amongst us.
Some members faced personal problems, while others died too soon. Their story is full of ups and downs, and their tragic end will shock you. Let's look at what really happened to them.
And my dad, of course, some may know, was a homicide detective in Chicago.
Right.
In the 50s and 60s, okay? And my mother, back in those days, our dad would work, mom could take care of the family.
The Five Stairsteps were a family music group from Chicago.
Starting out, nothing was possible without my mom and dad.
Right.
That listened to us banging on pots and pans, because we didn't have bongos. So that was our percussion.
They were called the first family of soul because they had many hit songs over 5 years. Later, the Jackson Five became more famous and took that title. The group was made up of brothers and one sister from the Burke family. Their mother gave them the name Five Stairsteps because when standing in order by age, they looked like steps. The group included Clarence Jr., Alohe, James, Dennis, and the youngest, Keni. Their father, Clarence Sr., was a police officer, but he also played bass guitar for the group, helped manage them, and even wrote songs with his son, Clarence Jr. The group got their start by performing in a local Chicago talent contest. That night, they won first prize, and they were proud to say they beat the Jackson Five in the same competition.
I heard that also the Jackson 5 attended to this contest, but you won the show and were offered a record deal. Is this true?
Well, yes, it was a large talent show, and the Jackson family were from Gary, Indiana.
One of their neighbors, Fred Cash from the group The Impressions, saw their talent and introduced them to Curtis Mayfield. Mayfield was a big name in music, and he helped them get their first record deal. They signed with a record label called Windy City, which was connected to Cameo Parkway Records. Their first big song was You Waited Too Long, a slow and emotional ballad.
You waited too long.
It became a hit, reaching number 16 on the R&B charts. Another song they released was Don't Waste Your Time, written by Mayfield himself.
Don't waste your time. My love is taken.
The group continued to make music and gain popularity. However, their record label, Cameo Parkway, shut down in 1967. After that, they moved to another label called Buddha Records, where they continued their career. Over the years, the group went through many changes. This change caused some identity issues for the band. Fans had to get used to the new lineup, and the band had to adjust to a different sound and style. These changes made it harder for the group to stay as successful as before. After the group, the Stairsteps, broke up, Keni Burke continued working in music. He stayed with Dark Horse Records as a solo artist. In August 1977, he released his first solo album, Keni Burke. He produced it himself, which showed his growing talent as a musician and producer. The album had songs like Keep On Singing,
All you got to do is keep on singing.
and From Me to You. The second song was an instrumental version of another song called From Us to You. Even though Keni was now on his own, he was still part of the music world. Keni became a highly demanded bass player. He played with many famous artists, including Sly and the Family Stone, Natalie Cole, and Billy Preston. His skills made him a respected musician in the industry. Working as a session musician gave him more experience and helped him grow as an artist. Even though he was not always in the spotlight, his work was important behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Clarence Jr., another former member of the Stairsteps, teamed up with producer Alex Masucci. Together, they created a new group called the Invisible Man's Band. At first, Clarence did not want to record without his brothers, so he convinced Keni, James, and Dennis to join. They also worked with keyboardist Dean Gant and drummer Steve Ferrone, who had been with the Average White Band. The group recorded their first album at the Brill Building in New York City. The band's first album, The Invisible Man's Band, was released in 1980 by Mango Island Records. The album had a hit song called All Night Thing. This song became very popular, reaching the top 10 on the R&B chart. It also reached number 45 on the Billboard Hot 100. The success of this song helped the Burke brothers get back into the music scene. Fans loved the disco sound, and the song became a favorite in clubs and on the radio. After their success, Clarence Jr. and Alex Masucci started a new company called Seduction Productions. This company helped them continue their work as the Invisible Man's Band. They signed a deal with Boardwalk Records, which was started by Neil Bogart after he left Casablanca Records. The group released another album called Really Wanna See You.
I really wanna see you, baby. Oh,
And Rated X. But they did not do well because the label did not promote them. Sadly, soon after, Neil Bogart passed away and the label shut down. This left the group without much support. They released one more song, Sunday Afternoon, in 1983 on a small record label, but the band did not continue after that. Later, in 1981, Keni signed a solo deal with RCA Records. He released an album called You're the Best. The album had two singles, Let Somebody Love You and You're the Best. A year later, he released another album, Changes. This album included his most famous solo song, Rising to the Top. When it was released, the song only reached number 63 on the R&B chart. However, over time, it became a favorite in the music industry. Other artists used Rising to the Top in their own songs. For example, the Mary Jane Girls' hit song All Night Long was inspired by it. Many hip-hop and R&B artists later sampled it, including LL Cool J, Around the Way Girl, Doug E. Fresh, Keep Rising to the Top, and Mary J. Blige, Love No Limit and Mary Jane, All Night Long. The song became a classic, even though it was not a big hit when it first came out.
Well, sometimes you write a song and you know it's something special about it, and everyone else knows it's something special. And it was one of those songs.
Another song from Changes was Shakin'. The album also had a special song called 1 Minute More, written by Keni and Linda Creed, a well-known songwriter from Philadelphia. This showed Keni's talent not only as a musician, but also as a songwriter. Besides working on his own music, Keni also worked as a producer and writer. He helped many famous artists, including the OJs, the Jones Girls, the Whispers, Keith Sweat, Peabo Bryson, and Bill Withers. He often worked with his old bandmates, Dean Gant and Steve Ferrone. His skills as a producer kept him active in the music business, even when he was not making his own albums. In the late 1990s, Keni signed with Expansion Records, a UK-based label. In 1998, he released his first album with them, Nothing But Love. The album included the single I Need Your Love, which featured his son, Osae's Ozzie Burke. Even though Keni never became a superstar, his work remained important in R&B, funk, and soul music.
ooh, child, things are gonna get easy.
So in 1970, the five Stairsteps released a song called OOH Child. It became a big hit, reaching number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song was all about hope, telling people that things would get easier. It made people feel better during hard times. Many believed its message, thinking that life would get better if they just held on. The song sold over 1 million copies and people still listen to it today. But is the message really true?
Things are gonna be easy.
Some people say the song is a lie. They believe life never really gets easier. Instead, people just learn how to handle their problems better. When you're young, you think that by the time you grow up, you'll have everything figured out. But then you get older, and instead of feeling wiser, you feel more confused than ever. The problems don't stop, they just change.
Someday when your head is much lighter.
A lot of people go through this feeling in their late 30s or early 40s. You expect to have your life together, but instead, you feel lost. Life throws more responsibilities at you. Bills, family, work, health problems. You thought you would feel strong and confident, but instead, you feel exhausted and overwhelmed. People say that as you get older, you understand life better. But what if that's not true? What if life just keeps getting harder and you're just supposed to deal with it? Thinking about OOH Child brings up a lot of emotions. The song promises that things will get better, but what if they don't? What if life just keeps piling on problems? Some people feel like they are just being pulled through a paper shredder, barely holding on. They handle one problem and then another one comes right after it. It never stops. Some people believe that childhood struggles should make them stronger. If they went through tough times as kids, they think they should be able to handle anything. But sometimes, the past just makes things harder. It doesn't prepare you for watching your parents grow old and sick, for financial stress, or for feeling like the world is falling apart. Every day, the news is filled with bad stories, climate change, disasters, wars. It feels like the world is always in crisis. That's why some people joke about suing the 5 Stairsteps. How dare they tell us that life will get easier? Where is the proof? When you struggle every day, it's hard to believe in a future where everything will be okay. It feels unfair to give people false hope. Even with all of this, some people still find themselves singing OOH Child. They sing it to their kids when they complain about small problems, like not getting to eat junk food all day or having to go to school. Parents want to believe that things will get easier for their children, even if they don't feel that way themselves. But maybe the truth is different. Maybe instead of telling kids that life will get better, people should prepare them for reality. Instead of singing a happy song, maybe they should play something sad, like Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. That song fits better with how life really feels, full of ups and downs, struggles, and uncertainty. So is OOH Child right or wrong? Maybe both. It's nice to believe that things will improve. Hope is important. But at the same time, people need to be realistic. Life is full of struggles and it doesn't always get easier. Maybe the real message should be, keep going no matter what.
Ooh, child, things are gonna be easier.
Lip-Synching on Soul Train. So let's talk about their appearance on Soul Train. Back in the 1970s, many music shows had artists lip-sync instead of singing live. Soul Train was one of those shows. The reason was simple. Live sound was hard to control on TV, and lip-syncing made things easier. It also made sure the music sounded just like the record. Many artists had no problem with it, but some fans felt it was not real because the singers were not actually performing live. When the group performed OOH Child on Soul Train, they did not sing live. Instead, they mouthed the words while the recorded song played. This was normal for TV shows back then. The goal was to make everything look smooth and professional. Even though they were not singing, their energy and presence still made the performance enjoyable. Fans got to see their favorite artists up close, even if the singing was not live. Some people think lip-syncing takes away from a performance. They feel that real talent should be shown live, with all its imperfections. Others believe it does not matter as long as the performance is entertaining. On Soul Train, lip-syncing was just part of how things were done. The show focused on the dancing, the style, and the fun of the music, not just the singing. Over the years, some artists have been criticized for lip-syncing, while others have accepted it as part of the business. Whether people like it or not, it was a common practice, especially in the early days of TV music shows. Fans still love OOH Child no matter how it was performed on Soul Train. The song remains a classic, and the performance is still remembered today. Now let's change gears and delve into the lives of the members, starting with Clarence Burke Jr. He was the lead singer of the 5 Stairsteps. He was not just a singer, he also played guitar, wrote songs, and helped create the group's stage performances. His voice and musical skills played a big role in the group's success. One of his biggest achievements was writing their first hit song, You Waited Too Long, when he was only 16. This song became popular and made people notice the group. But their biggest hit came in 1970 with OOH Child, a song that gave hope and comfort to many people. It sold over 1 million copies and became one of the most loved songs in R&B history. The song remained popular for years. Famous singers like Nina Simone, Dusty Springfield, and Kelly Rowland sang their own versions. Rappers like 2PAC and Janet Jackson even used parts of the song in their music. It was also played in movies and TV shows like Boys in, The Hood, and The Simpsons, proving how timeless it was. Later in life, Clarence continued performing and making music with family and friends. He loved music and never stopped sharing his talent with the world. He passed away at the age of 64. His family, including his wife Crystal and 5 children, were left with his beautiful musical legacy. Next is James Burke.
My brother James, who was nothing shy of genius, not only musically, but he was a great artist.
For James Burke, he played the guitar, sang, and wrote songs. His music touched many people. But James was not just a musician, he was also an artist. From a young age, he showed great talent in drawing and painting. He was so good that he received a scholarship to the Art Institute of Chicago when he was only 10 years old. That was a big deal because not many young kids get such an opportunity. He worked hard at both music and art throughout his life.
He had a scholarship to the Chicago Art Institute at 8 years old.
As James got older, he spent more time on his art. While music brought him fame, painting and drawing were also a big part of who he was. Many people knew him as a musician, but those close to him saw his deep love for art. He found peace in creating visual work, using colors and images to express himself. Sadly, James Burke died on February 19, 2021, from pneumonia at age 70. Dennis Burke also played a key role in the group. While James focused more on songwriting and guitar, Dennis was part of the rhythm section. That means he helped create the beat and foundation of the music. Without a strong rhythm, songs would not have the same energy. Dennis worked hard to make sure the music had the right feel. His role may not have been as well known as some of the lead singers, but it was just as important. Dennis has spoken about the group's journey. He has shared stories about the challenges they faced in the music business. The 5 Stairsteps came from Chicago, and they had to work hard to make it in the industry. It was not always easy. The music business can be tough, especially for young artists. There were times when they struggled, but they kept going. They stayed focused on their music and believed in what they were doing. Dennis has not talked much about his personal life, but he has given insight into what it was like being part of the 5 Stairsteps. He has spoken about their experiences growing up and making music. Fans appreciate hearing these stories because they show what it took to succeed. Making music is not just about talent. It takes dedication and perseverance. And then the youngest of the band, Keni Burke. Keni was a very talented musician who played the bass guitar and also sang. While in the group, Keni showed that he had great musical skills and many people noticed his talent. When the group broke up, he decided to continue making music on his own. This was not easy because he was no longer part of a famous group. He had to work hard to prove himself as a solo artist. Even though it was difficult, Keni did not give up. He released his own music and became a respected session musician. A session musician is someone who plays instruments for other artists in recording studios. Many famous musicians wanted to work with him because of his skill on the bass guitar. He played for different artists and helped create some great songs. This allowed him to stay in the music business even though he was no longer part of a group. Keni's journey from being in a family group to being on his own was a big change. When you are part of a group, you share success with others, but when you are alone, you must prove yourself. Keni was able to do this because of his talent and hard work. He created his own style and made music that people enjoyed. He may not have been as famous as before, but he still made a big impact in the music world. Alohe Burke was the only sister in the 5 Stairsteps.
4 brothers and one sister who's the oldest.
Right, okay.
Her name was Alohe then, but we call her Rami now.
She was known for her beautiful voice and strong stage presence. People loved watching her perform because she had a special energy. She played an important role in the group, and her voice added something unique to their songs. She had a passion for music, but after the group ended, she decided to take a different path.
We just got to a point where we just said, we want to just experience life.
Right.
And go and just, we were okay with it. We were okay.
Unlike Keni, Alohe did not continue in the music business. Instead, she chose to focus on education and spiritual development. She believed in helping people learn and grow in their lives. Not much is known about her personal struggles, but she seemed to find peace in her new path. Many artists struggle after leaving music, but Alohe found something else that was meaningful to her. And lastly, their father and manager, Clarence Burke Sr.
Success, we had an opportunity to do a record deal with Motown. We passed on it. My father felt that we would have a little more creative control.
Clarence Burke Sr. was not just a father to his children. He was their manager, protector, and mentor. He worked as a Chicago police detective, but his real passion was music. He loved music so much that he passed it down to his children, helping them form the R&B group, the 5 Stairsteps. He also played bass guitar for them and managed their career. This meant he was both strict and supportive. His job as a policeman made him a strong figure in their lives, and he made sure they stayed disciplined while chasing their dreams. As their manager, Clarence Sr. made important decisions to guide the group's success. He helped them start by performing at church and school events. Over time, they gained confidence and entered amateur contests at nightclubs. Their talent and hard work paid off when they were noticed by Curtis Mayfield's Windy C label. In 1965, they signed a recording contract and began their journey in the music industry. The next year, their first single, You Waited Too Long, became a hit. It climbed the R&B charts and showed that the group had something special. This was just the beginning of many successful years. Clarence Sr. was also very protective of his children. He did not let anyone disrespect them. One time, after a show in Pittsburgh, someone in the audience was rude to the group. Clarence Sr. did not ignore it. He confronted the person right away. This showed how much he cared for his children, both as a father and as their manager. He was strict, but his love for them was clear. He worked hard to make sure they stayed safe and focused on their music.